Hello everybody, this is Riku Keyblade Master and I want to welcome you guys to my channel. This is a little series I do for game reviews. Last 4 times, I did the Sly Cooper series, Sly Coopers 1 through 4. This time I'm doing a Square Enix and Jupiter collaboration title called The World Ends With You, which was made in 2009 for the DS version and 2010 for the iOS version. Anyway, before I jump into this review though, I want to warn you all that there will be some spoilers, because The World Ends With You is definitely a game that you cannot talk about without there being a few spoilers, because the whole story in itself is a spoiler. I mean, come on. So, if you guys are ready, grab your player pins and your combat pins or whatever you use for combat, and let's get started. Now, The World Ends With You follows a teenager named Neku Sakuraba, who has a high appreciation for art, but a high depreciation for other people. He states in the beginning, "I don't get people. Never have, never will." Well, the game starts out with him waking up in the scramble, but before that, he wakes up, or he passes out in a place where there's this mural he always looked at every single day after school. Now, the place that I'm referring to, I will mention later in this review. Now, he wakes up in the Scramble Crossing, and he has this player pin in his hand. And as soon as he touches this pin, or rather squeezes it or whatever after he does that little flip thing, he can read other people's thoughts and detect noise. And he saw a bunch of people just flat out get biffed. I'm not even gonna lie. Now, if that was me, that would have been like a horrid experience. I will not lie. And that's another thing. Like, this game tackles a really dark theme. And by dark theme, I literally mean death itself. Most games you would think are normal, but nope, you get this game, and holy crap. You're like, what the hell am I playing? You know. But, anyway, back to the game summary. Neku wakes up in the Scramble Crossing, and he spots a young 15-year-old girl who says, "Make a pact with me. If you don't make a pact, or rather, if we don't make a pact, we will be erased." And her name is Shiki Misuki, or Misaki. I don't exactly know the correct pronunciation of her last name. I just pronounce it by the way it's spelled. Anyways, now you tackle some missions, and then Shiki, around, I want to say, day 5 to day 6, she has a serious conflict with herself. Now, I'm not going to spoil what that serious conflict is, but all I will say is that each player puts up an entry fee. Now, Shiki, her, as As for how she handles herself in combat, Neku uses psychs and pins that are connected to, like, you know, you have a fire psych connected to a fire pin. The ability to drop boulders, the ability to use ice, the ability to use electricity, so on and so forth. Well, after, as well as Shiki's fighting style, she uses the stuffed animal that she made. His name is Mr. Mew, and he's like a really cute stuffed black cat. But Neku, for some reason, has the need to call him a stuffed piggy. Seriously! He's not a pig! He's a cat! Anyways, on to the next portion of the review. The Game Master. Each week you get a main boss after you get a set of missions per the week. Now, the main boss, you find him, take him out, and then the next thing you know, you wake up in the Scramble Crossing again, and you need to go to the station of Hachiko to find your second partner. And your second partner, you don't really see it right away, but you're in a pact. And this partner this time is a highly intelligent and highly knowledgeable 15-year-old male named Joshua, or as his Japanese name proclaims, Yoshida Kiryu. And I'm not even kidding, this kid is highly intelligent. But no intelligent person is without their shadiness. Neku doesn't really like partnering up with this kid because of his demeanor, which we later find out why he's that way. But I'll get to that in a little bit. Now, as far as Joshua goes, his fighting style, he plays high and low. So, you know, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, you know, so on and so forth. I mean, it doesn't go up to 6, but you get what I mean, for example, you know. But avoid the mimic cards or mirror cards. But in any ways, he's much different than Shiki, because I forgot to mention that in the DS version you have a top screen and a bottom screen, and then you have an iOS version which was made in 09, 010, or you get the idea. And to call Shiki in, all you had to do was tap the screen. But as far as calling Joshua in the iOS version, I mean, I'm in that week right now. You have to slash the screen, and I literally mean slash the screen this way. However, it does get confusing as some of your pins have the same exact command. And Joshua's deal is, I discussed his limit. Now his main attack is, he drops hazards on the enemy, whereas, you know, Shiki just did whatever she did with Mr. Mew. Joshua will drop hazards on the enemy. I guess you could say we have the ability to drop hazards too, considering that we have a pin that can allow us to grab different objects in the field, i.e. signs, cars, you name it, and we can use it against the enemy. However, the enemies have a capability of throwing hazards at us too, which is what confuses me during Joshua's week. In fact, I'm on Joshua's week right now in the iOS version. Well, Android version, really. Because I beat the DS version and the iOS version on my iPod, which is really small. But I have an Android version for my tablet. and I'm on the second week right now. I believe I'm in day 3 now of Joshua's week. No, I'm still in day 2 because of something I'm not going to spoil right now, but I'll get to in a little bit. Now, Joshua is someone that is highly set on a goal. It's later revealed who he's working with, but you'll notice in the first couple of days, he's talking to someone on his cell, and Neku, thinking that he's literally shady, is like, is he reporting to the Reapers? Because when I said Joshua is very knowledgeable, he knows a lot about the Reapers game. I am not going to lie to you guys. He does. He knows a lot about the Reapers game. And the reason being revealed is the person he's working with, his name is Sine Hanakoma. And he runs a cafe shop. However, it's later revealed that he is also the person behind those designs that Neku was always constantly looking at in the murals when he was alive. He was in the Utagawa district, by the way, and that's where he died. He claims he passed out in Utagawa, but within the first week he finds out he's dead. And, you know, as far as Neku's second entry fee for the next week, Shiki Masuki got high marks. However, the Reapers tricked him. They didn't send her back. Rather, they collected her as his second entry fee. And, you know, he's playing for keeps, you know, trying to get her back. And Joshua, like I said, you know, he keeps pushing on his little agenda. And he's working with a person named Sine Hanakoma, which is later revealed. And it's also later revealed that he, around day 4, which I'm almost there, you find out a little bit of a plot twist about Joshua. He is actually playing the game alive. He is not dead. To quote Joshua himself here, sneaking in means I don't have a player pen. But such is life. Did you think you were special? Every player here put up something they love. Everyone makes sacrifices. And, you know, Neku's like, are you kidding me? Well, before all this happens, the Reapers, like, around day 3, start suspecting activity of an illegal player. Now, hold on to what I just said about that, because that's going to come back up a little bit later. Now, after finding out that Joshua is alive, Neku's like, oh my god, okay, I'm going to be in so much trouble for forging a path with a living player. I knew this kid was shady from the get-go, but I didn't know he was that shady. And then there's the first plot twist. And the second comes after you end up meeting Mr. H. You end up finding that Mr. Hanakoma is actually Neku's idol, where Kat never revealed himself. Neku didn't even know the gender of Kat in the first place. The first time playing, I didn't know what to think about Cat. And I was very, very shocked and intrigued, really. I kind of figured it would have been Mr. H. Anyway, though, considering some of the things he said and how artistic he is. Now, another thing about Joshua, before you find out that Joshua is alive, you find out a bit of background on him from Mr. Hanakoma. You find out that Joshua actually was alone. Like, no one would listen to him at all. He has various abilities, such as the ability to see into the UG, which is another thing. There's the RG Shibuya Tokyo and the UG Shibuya Tokyo. The UG Shibuya Tokyo is where the Reaper's game is being held, which stands for underground. RG stands for real ground. And that's where the living folks are. And we find out in day 4, well, I think day 3, Joshua became a regular at Mr. Hanakoma's shop before he died. This is before we find out he's alive. Before he died, he became a regular at Mr. Hanakoma's shop. But it's later revealed he didn't die after all. But that still doesn't excuse the fact that his parents, and no one for that matter, would listen to him. Like, they all thought he was crazy. But he's like me, which is why I sympathize with Joshua. I told you guys about my supernatural abilities to be able to see into the realm of death itself, meaning I can communicate with spirits and everything else. Now, Joshua is the same way. He was able to see the Reapers, the players, the Reaper's game, the whole works. So he was able to peer into the UG. Now, which would explain in his appearance in Dream Drop Distance. Well, I'll bring that up later. It's later revealed after a few missions, but on the first day, the Game Master, Shio Minamimoto, is very cryptic. He says, You're a player this time around? Well, that makes for an unexpected calculation. He is like a mathematician, I'm not gonna lie. First Game Master that you tackled was Iodai Higashizawa in Shiki's Week. And Joshua is trying to steer clear of Sho Minamimoto because Minamimoto is planning to take him out. For whatever reason, I don't know. So, your chances to steer clear as much as you can. But, after the next day comes that I mentioned, you find out that Joshua is alive. And the composer, he's after the composer. And so you get some tracking missions too. Mr. Hanakoma embedded a tracker into Joshua's phone, which is broken, so he goes in and gets it fixed. So everything, happens. Like the mission I tackled beforehand, though, before the tracker, Tin Pin Slammer is a horrible game. I am not going to lie. I mean, I like the premise, but on the DS version it was much easier. But on the iOS version, it's a pain in the butt. It's a lot like Beyblade, except Beyblade or Bakugan, but except of using those pieces, the Beyblade top and the Bakugan, you use pins. Your pins you carry into battle. And, one of the missions requires you to play it. And in the first week you're required to play it to get past the wall. So in the first week you're introduced to it. So it's very early on. But like I said, it's a little bit more difficult on the iOS version than it is on the DS version. The thing is, though, with Joshua, Mr. Hanakoma is the only one that would listen to him, which would explain his somewhat rude demeanor, because nobody would listen. It's the classic, I know all this information and nobody would listen to me. They all think I'm crazy type deal. And, Mr. Hanakoma and Joshua have been partners ever since. They've been pals ever since. In fact, Mr. Hanakoma sees himself as kind of a parent to Joshua, or guardian, so to speak. But, anyway, you get through Joshua's week, which actually has somewhat sort of easier missions since you have him as your partner. But as far as he is in combat, after day 4, he's really good when he gets this Jesus beam attack. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it basically is essentially a few beams he can shoot out of his hands. And he can use his cell phone later down the line as a way to attack too. He can stun the enemies with his camera, which is really neat considering it's a lot easier to hit the enemies when they're stunned. But anyways, one of the things that happens in the first week is one of the players decides to become a Reaper. There's Neku. This is the whole cast. Neku, whole cast of main players. Neku Sakuraba, Shiki Masuki, Yoshida Kiryu, aka Joshua, Rhyme, and Daisuke Nojo Bito. Now, a funny little thing about Daisuke Nojo Bito and Rhyme, they are actually brother and sister, but Rhyme does not remember that. Her entry fee was her memory of B. And, same as Neku, but except her memory is just of one person. Neku's memory, his complete memory, was his entry fee. Rhyme got erased in day 4 of Shiki's week, which really was a bitch. I'm not gonna lie. So it left Beat without a partner. You met up with Mr. Hanakoma in the first week, but you didn't know anything much about him, except for the fact that he was a guardian. So his first person he took on as a guardian target in the game, so you think, is Beat. But really, it's been Joshua the whole time. Joshua and Mr. Hanakoma have been conspiring with each other. But you'll finally end up taking out Mr. Minamimoto in the second week. And then you finally get into a third week. But before that, Joshua uses an attack to erase Minamoto for good, or so he thinks. All the while sacrificing himself. And Neku's like, oh my god, I feel like a total ass. Because I made Joshua feel like he owed me something. You know, I assumed he killed me just because he was there when it happened. And, you know, I asked all these questions. I feel horrible. Now, the next entry fee that Neku has for the last week of the game is every single player, so he cannot forge a pact. Meaning, it would be easy for Neku to face erasure. However, one of the Reapers partners up with Neku. And ends up, you know, under EC, which is emergency call, because he betrayed his crew. And so, you know how day 7, the GM or the Reapers can't attack players directly? In the first 2 weeks they couldn't. Well, with the EC in place in the 3rd week, any Reaper can attack you no matter what day. And these little O-pins end up taking control of the person wearing them. And the O-pins are a callback to the Red Skull pins from the first week. That you had to get a pin to take off when you had Shiki as your game partner. And in any case, you end up defeating the main boss after a few missions. And her name is I'm just going to call her Konishi, and she is a shadow to battle. And she thought that she could keep Beat under her control by keeping Rhyme and the pin that he made a pact with so he could stay alive, hostage basically. But we end up beating her. Then we end up going to the end of the game, where you end up, Shiki ends up being controlled by Shades, and you take him out the first time, and then you go into an area known as the Shibuya River, hence the area that Joshua was trying to keep tabs on or trying to track, but he simply couldn't find it. He was almost close on the 4th day when he had to reveal the truth about him being alive, but he unfortunately couldn't get there. And the question is, what's the significance of that river? And it turned out the whole time, after going into another boss battle with Shades, you hear a voice that starts laughing, you know, that little snicker? I am back, Mugume. Your timer must be nearly ticked off. And it's later revealed it's Joshua! This is the last plot twist. It seems that Joshua was Shibuya's composer the whole time. All this time we thought he was trying to jack Shibuya under his control because someone else had it. But it turns out that he has been absent since Neku came to the UG. Absent my ass! When you find out that he was your game partner and that you were playing for Joshua's team the entire time, with Shiki as your partner, him as your partner, and then Beat as your partner, you were carrying out all of Joshua's tasks. Hence why you don't get as many missions in Joshua's week. because he is the one issuing the missions. Hence why you're always ending up at that silly cafe in Cat Street. This is literally why he's my favorite character. He's nasty and devious. I like people who are nasty and devious, since I got the nasty and devious gene myself. So I guess you could say we're the same personality as well as possessing the same abilities. And that's why I love Joshua so much. And another thing, it turns out in the end of the game, this is where my theory comes in. The finale of the game, after you take out Shades completely, and he is erased, you have a duel with Joshua. He says, "Neku, your face is priceless. Don't you remember what Mr. Hanakoma told you?" After he found out that Joshua was the one who really did kill him. Ouch. It was you. I thought I finally found a friend I could relate to, but it was you. You killed me. It was ridiculous. In a good way. But it was very good, in my opinion. The presentation was spot on, as well as Joshua's advice. But anyway, it turns out that I believe that Neku won the duel. And when Joshua's bullet was going straight for Neku, it was really targeted to hit a wall, which made it ricochet and hit Joshua. Hence, in the end, it looks like he's an angel. Hence, back when I said in Dream Drop Distance, when he had the wings, that's why. Because he ended up sacrificing himself for a second time so Neku could be Shibuya's composer. Because Joshua says, the winner gets to be the composer and do whatever he likes with Shibuya. If you win, you decide. If I win, I decide. Of course, I already decided. So, yeah. And the ending basically is Neku's letter to Joshua. And they end up meeting. You know, Shiki, Neku, rhyme, beat. They end up meeting. But, if you look closely at one of the citizens, it seems that Joshua looks like one of them. So I wonder if Joshua is watching from afar through that person, or he has a living being keeping tabs, or, you know, maybe it happened halfway, who knows. But yeah, that has been my summary for The World Ends With You, and that covered the gameplay as well. As far as the rating goes, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10, because even though some of the mechanics were difficult, it was still a good game regardless. So 10 out of 10 is my final rating for The World Ends With You. In any case, guys, I've been Riku Keyblade Master. Remember to comment, rate, subscribe to become a Keyblade wielder, as well as a member of the Cooper Gang and a member of the Bandicoot Nation. I'll see you next time for the next vid. Peace.